Hello, broadcast community. It is MJ Calloway here with another episode of Bounce Up Talk Show. And today I have a special guest in the studio, and this is my friend and colleague, Lisa Ryan, and she is a rock star when it comes to the topic of gratitude and the workplace. Welcome, Lisa.
Thanks, MJ. It's awesome to be here.
Lisa, you have your whole topic centers around, or most of it centers around gratitude. Now, I have never asked you this question before, and I'd love to know, before I ask you a few other questions, but I'd love to know, why is gratitude so important to you personally?
Well, I actually had a personal experience with it back in 2009 after I was coming home from a 4-day conference that I went to with some friends, and we were trying to figure out all the ways that we can keep that energy going. And so we opened up a Facebook thread and we shared experiences that we had, people we met, things that we learned, all of that. And then my friend Mike said, well, why don't we write down 3 things that we're grateful for? And doing that, holding each other accountable every day, that was absolutely changed my life on really every aspect. And I also knew that that was the message that I was supposed to bring to the world, because it had such a profound impact on my life that I knew that just simple daily practices could really turn around a lot of other people's lives. And especially not only personally, but taking it to the workplace makes even more of a multiplier effect.
That's amazing. So you gained more from a comment someone had said to you after the conference than you did through the whole conference. Like, that was the biggest aha there.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great conference. There was a fire walk involved. I mean, it was a very, very powerful weekend. But looking back on it, you're absolutely right. It was that one kind of side comment that came off of that changed everything. So you never know where a good idea is going to come from.
And how it will propel whether your career or your business. In this case, it propelled your business.
Yes, very much so.
So could you share a little bit about what you do and who you help?
Sure. I work primarily with manufacturing and skilled trade associations to help them keep their top talent from becoming someone else's. And it's really about creating gratitude strategies, or grategies, for the workplace. Now, just because I focus on manufacturing doesn't mean that I speak to everyone. I'm not going to turn people down. I do a lot in long-term care because I think that the people in that industry are angels on earth. It's a lot of
Yes.
underserved, underthanked hospitality, where people are working so hard trying to make a difference and not necessarily thanked. These are ways to really keep them, particularly in some of these high turnover industries, or where it's hard enough to find people to begin with. And once you find them, you have to figure out a way to keep them.
Absolutely. And I love your tagline, how to keep your top talent from becoming someone else's or your competitors. I love that.
Right.
And being able to do it with gratitude. Now, you had mentioned hospitality, and I want to bounce back to, I had worked with a group this week in the hospitality arena. And one of the things I heard over and over again is about how understaffed they
Mm.
are. They are struggling to have enough people to serve, let alone, having people leave. So what can an employer, manager, supervisor, what can they do to show gratitude to employees?
Well, there's things like, just when they come in, thank them for coming, thank them for showing up, thank them for being on time. Thank them if you see them going above and beyond to take care of their table, or they're taking care of somebody else's customer because that other server is busy. To just make sure that you're recognizing people and catching them in the act of doing things well. Looking at asking how they're doing personally and actually caring about the answer. because we're all going through a lot of stuff right now. And we just need to be aware that we don't necessarily know everything that people are going through. And while we're at it, as consumers of these services, when you are at a restaurant, when you are on an airplane, when you are in a hotel and you don't get maid service for the day, understand we have to come from a different expectation of service maybe than we're used to because of the short staff. So being a little bit more patient, tipping better, that's a
Yes.
big thing, especially when you see somebody go above and beyond, and really recognize that person. I had an experience just last week when I was dealing with all kinds of the flights from hell, basically. And the one flight attendant or the gate agent was so kind, and she was trying, and I could have been the problem child because I was trying to get a seat assignment and I couldn't do it. And I just kept going up and I was asking her for help, and she's just kind of being patient with me. And then at the end, I was just showing her some cartoons and some stuff on the phone. And basically she let me board with a much earlier group because I was actually nice to her. So, good things do come out of when you're actually kind to people.
Well, think about it. Wouldn't you rather do a favor for somebody who is kind to you than somebody who is really not nice to you? I mean,
Exactly.
seriously. So I know there was one time where a flight that I was on was overbooked, and I went over and I did offer my seat. And instead of her taking my seat, she actually gave me an upgrade to first class because there were seats open in first class. So it does pay to be nice to people.
Right. And you be nice for the sake of being nice, not with the
Yes.
expectation that because you're nice, you're going to get a reward. There has to be that element of sincerity and authenticity in the niceness. I just want to put that disclaimer on it.
Definitely. And it goes back to karma. You're giving out good karma is coming back to you.
Right, exactly.
Someone once told me that when you are nice or when you do something good, it comes back to you threefold. And that has always stuck with me. Just that, whatever we give out can definitely come back.
Well, and that really goes to the whole point of thanking people. I mean, it feels great to be thanked, but there's something about the giver of appreciation that connects with them, makes them physically feel better, makes their health better. We bring all of these things into our life simply because we're focusing on the things that are going well, the good things that we have in our life, and acknowledging those good things, those good events, those good people, and letting them know that we care about them and that we are grateful for them being in our lives.
I came across a statistic and it said 70% of employees would feel better about themselves if their boss was grateful.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many statistics, so many numbers, because when I talk to potential clients about gratitude and stuff, they start thinking off that this is going to be something fluffy, it's going to be something soft, and there is nothing soft about it. When you look at companies who have engaged employees are 100%, 120% more profitable. They have 5 times fewer safety accidents. The people are more engaged. And when you have engaged employees, they are taking better care of your customers. So now you have a better customer experience. So it all goes around. We can put the numbers to it. And when you look at this age that we're in right now, in this great resignation, where the numbers
Mhm.
are saying that 87% of employees are open to opportunities, doesn't it make sense that we have more of a focus now on catching our employees in the act of doing things well, of acknowledging them with more than just the paycheck they get every Friday or every couple weeks, but letting them know that they are valued and that they are contributing to a mission that's even bigger than they are.
Absolutely. And so well said there. The so we talked a little bit about how someone can show that gratitude. Now, having been in one of your keynotes before, I know that it also affects us health wise. And you had a statistic or you had some information there on the heart and how gratitude helps us that way. Can you share more?
Sure. And there's a lot of information at the Institute of Heart Math, which is where these research studies came from. But what they do is they take a look at how our emotions impact us physically. And in one of their studies, they compared frustration and appreciation and its impact on the heart. And what they found, they took a group of people, hooked them up to monitors, and put them through a period of frustration. And then they looked at their heart rate variability, which is basically the space between the heartbeats. So when you are frustrated, your heart is beating. It looks almost like a lie detector test. It's all jagged and uneven. But when they took those same people through a period of appreciation, you could actually see these smooth lines. It was more balanced. So we look at the physical impact of just what happens when we choose positive emotions versus making or letting ourselves wallow. And I am not certainly saying to never wallow, because sometimes there's nothing better than a good pity party. As long as you have a stop to it, you
Yes.
start to get to the point where you experience the rawness of whatever that anger is, that sadness, that depression, whatever it is, you feel that. But then when you start to come out of it, to say, okay, let me find one good thing about this. And when you can find one good thing, you're much more likely to be able to find the next thing and the next thing. And it leads us into choosing these positive emotions that do impact our health.
I always say, especially to clients and my children, you can rant, but you rant once, whatever it is, to get it off your chest one time. You
Right.
don't go around saying it to person to person to person to person, because then you're digging yourself deeper into it.
Yeah.
So yes, absolutely. And then when we do, it's a ripple effect. When you find one good thing, you find the next and the next. Same with when you were talking about, the way it helps our heart, and the way that, there's less accidents at work. It's a ripple effect. There's an impact of it. Less accidents at work, less days off because people aren't sick, more productivity, all of it. It just creates this impact there.
Yeah. Well, you figure if these employees are waking up in the morning, they're like, oh, today's going to be another horrible day at work. The chance of them going, I think I need a sick day today, versus an employee who is excited to be there, who loves what they do and feels valued, they are much more likely to show up. And again, even acknowledging it. I remember I was talking to one of my audience members, and they went back to their very first job. They were actually working in a movie theater. And every single day when they came in, their boss would say hello to them and thank them for coming. And every day before they left, their boss would thank them for showing up that day. And it could have gotten old, but it never did. And this is, decades later, that person still remembers that manager made the effort to thank them for being there when they arrived and when they left.
Oh, and that goes back to that gratitude. What I love about that is that manager's attitude was contagious.
Yes, very much so.
He had, not only was it a positive one, but it was also one of gratitude, and it's contagious. When we have an attitude of either positivity or gratitude, it definitely is contagious, and people do remember it. That's a prime example of someone remembering that touch of gratitude.
Well, and the other thing to keep in mind is, because we're in the Thanksgiving month, it's actually National Gratitude Month as well. And throughout the holidays, we have this focus. But gratitude is not just for the last quarter. Gratitude is something that we need to really harness all year round, because good things happen to us all year round. So even though we have more of a focus right now, it's important that as we move into the new year, that we can continue these practices and still look for the good, because really, when you look for the good, you can always, always, always find it.
Definitely. When, Lisa, my backstory, and I've had a number of life altering changes.
Right.
And going through one of the life altering moments, I would put, it was a blank piece of paper on my bathroom mirror. And at the end of every day, I would write down, and mine was what I'm blessed with today. So it was similar to the gratitude. And I would write 3 things. And every day I would do that. What was my blessing today? And then it went into what made me smile today. But think about if a manager or a business owner would take that and make that a daily practice at the end of the day before everyone, left or ended their shift. What is something you're grateful that happened
Right.
today?
Well, another great practice that can be so easily implemented is when you're starting your meetings. You have everybody sitting around, and really, nobody really likes meetings anyway, unless there's good food. But to start off a meeting with people sharing good things that are happening, 30 seconds. So it doesn't have to
Yes.
be lots and lots of time. And it can be personal or it can be business, because that way we get to know more about the people that we're working with and have those deeper connections with them. But that's a great way to start a meeting. It's also a great way to end a meeting, and look for ways to continuously acknowledge and recognize colleagues and coworkers in those meetings, so we have a little bit more peer-to-peer recognition besides just the manager to employee, which is a lot of times a focus, but it shouldn't be. We should create that type of culture where everybody feels comfortable thanking anybody.
Uh, That I did that with a client who went through a really hard merger, and I called it good news. So every time I walked into the building, the first thing everyone had to do is tell me a bit of good news. And
Yep.
I didn't care what the good news was. I wanted to hear good news because it put them in a different mind frame, as what you're saying. It just starts the meeting off or ends the meeting on such a positive note.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be something big. I mean, the person can
Right.
say, I got a parking lot space right in front of the door today, and that's the only good thing that happened. You know what? It's something good, and it happened. So we focus on, oh, it has to be something big, and it doesn't. It's these little things that we take for granted that really makes the most difference when we get used to acknowledging those things.
So, Lisa, one of the things that I hear, and I will agree with you, absolutely, that agree with you there. It's those minor things. Sometimes we overlook them, as you said. So we often hear that people quit because of a boss.
Hmm.
So, however, in my past, I have found, I have left positions because of the culture and not necessarily the boss. So, what do you find? Because you talk about this topic all the time. Do you find it's one over the other, or do you find it in both cases?
Well, it's really a little bit of both, because culture starts at the top. So it may not be that one particular manager, but if there's a culture that's toxic, there's somebody at the top that's not doing anything about it. So we really have to take a look at the people who are leading the company, and getting that, because culture is certainly a big part of it. People, the funny thing is that people leave because of their bosses, but people also stay because of their bosses. Maybe they can get an offer where they can go down the street and make more money, but they love what they do, and they have a best friend at work, and they love the boss that they're reporting to. This is not an excuse to pay your people less than market value for the work that they do for you. However, people will work for less money when they feel appreciated. So it's just something that we get out of this mindset that, oh, I can't afford to bring new people on. You just have to pay them. That's all it's about, and I just can't afford it. And that's not the case at all. If your people are
Right.
leaving you and they're leaving you in droves, it's not the money. So
Would agree. So, speaking of if people are leaving, so what would be the top, 2 or 3 reasons people leave a company?
Well, the number one, and if not the number one in most studies, at least in the top three, is they don't feel appreciated. That's the number one reason why people don't leave, why people leave. Also, there's a lack of training. And there's that, again, there's that mindset of, well, if I invest all this money in training, my people are just going to leave me and take all that knowledge and experience with them. And the thing is, well, what if you don't train them and they stay? No,
Exactly.
nobody ever quit because of too much training, because of too much opportunity within a company. So we look at recognition, we look at training, we look at culture, we look at, flexibility, especially now, after we've gone through the last, 19 months, 5 years, whatever this pandemic has been going on.
It
But
feels like 5 years.
it does, where we have this, people are looking for flexibility and trusting employees that if they were getting their jobs done at home for the last 19 months, maybe there's some flexibility in there that they can continue to do that,
Mhm.
because our priorities have shifted. We're looking at life differently. So if you're looking at your business the exact same way that you were as little as 24 months ago, that's not cutting it anymore. And we really have to be very much more employee centric and look for the ways. One of the best things
Yes.
that I encourage people to do is a stay interview, not the exit interview, because I think that's a little late. Hey, why are you leaving? Okay,
So
they're
walking
not going
out
to
the
turn, yeah,
door.
they're not going to turn around and come back. But if you sit down with each of your employees and and ask them, tell me 3 things that you like about working here. The reason they do that, that becomes your fodder for now attracting more people. But you can also ask them, tell me 3 things that you don't like or that we can improve around
Mhm.
here. And when you ask that question, it is poker face. You don't argue, you don't fight, you don't justify, because they will never share anything with you again. But what that is it gives you some seeds of the things that you can look for and hopefully fix, so that you don't leave those people for the reasons that they're telling you in these stay interviews.
Oh, yes. Bite your tongue and then open those ears
Right, exactly,
and
exactly,
listen to the point that you can paraphrase it back to them. Because if you can't echo it back to them, then you did not intentionally listen to them.
exactly. Yep.
So what would be signs that a culture, because we're talking about cultures, because gratitude plays a big part in this. So what would be 2 or 3 signs of a culture that isn't working and they will lose their top talent?
Well, I always say that you can feel culture. I mean, any
Yes.
of us, we can walk into a restaurant, we can walk into a hospital, we can walk into a business, and we know if people like working there or not. So the signs are people laughing and smiling and joking around with each other? Is there an air of lightness in the air? Are people going out of their way to help other people? If you're noticing that employees who were previously like really engaged, all of a sudden they're backing away, they're not as engaged, they're leaving exactly on time where they used to put in some extra time to help out, that's something to pay attention to. If you're noticing again that you have that everybody's complaining about this one horrible toxic employee that you have, but that person's been here for 20 years and they know everything about the company and they know where the skeletons are. If that one negative toxic person is causing people to leave, think about who's leaving. Is it your best people or your worst people? Chances are good it's your best people. So, and in most cases, and most of us can say that we've worked in a job where we've worked with that negative, toxic, horrible person. And the
Yes.
day that that person quit or got fired, the rest of the people were like, ah, and we just moved on. We figured it out. We get so afraid of, number one, not being able to get the work done because we don't have the bodies to do it, or number two, because that person falls into protected classes and we're so afraid of being sued by that person that we don't take the steps to get rid of them. Those are the things, because your employees are
Mhm.
paying attention. And when they see that you are letting that toxic person get away with all of this stuff, and all the best assignments, all the good stuff is going to your top employees. Because think about what you're doing. You are rewarding your best employees with more work.
Yes.
Okay.
And you're rewarding toxic people.
Yeah,
You're
giving
allowing,
them a pass. Yep.
yes. We talked about Jim Kunkel, my co-host, and we talked about toxic people, I think about 2 weeks ago. So for our viewers, I'll go ahead and I'll put that link in so you can go ahead. If you've missed that, you can see the replay. Toxic people can definitely wipe out an organization.
They really can. And it's something that there's people that they are so well behaved. They are that manager's golden child, but the moment that manager walks out of the room, they are back to their slacker duties. So we
Mhm.
need to create a safe environment, not that people can tattle on each other, but a safe environment where management is open to hearing things that maybe they don't necessarily want to hear, where they're encouraging people to share the facts. We're not sharing emotions, rumors, innuendo, all of those type of things. But we're saying we're just letting people know that, Joe is just having a really hard time. Joe and Bill are at each other's throats all the time. And, something needs to be done because it's really impacting the productivity of the rest of the department, whatever it is. But being okay and leaving those doors open so that management can learn about things before it's too late and they lose their good people.
And with that, because sometimes people do not want to talk to someone in HR or their manager, isn't that a case where it is best to bring in a facilitator so people open up? Facilitator who can also train, such as yourself, and then you can go back to management and say, okay, this is what you really do need to work on, because you're the outside looking in. So you can see a lot more and hear a lot more than what someone they work with day to day, such as a manager or a business owner.
Right, right. And the other thing too, and there's more research coming out about this, about the value of anonymous surveys. I mean, we don't like to do that. And believe me, I have heard horror stories with anonymous surveys that you have managers like in the lunchroom trying to determine who said what and whose handwriting was what so that they could retaliate in some way. But again,
Yes.
employees are more comfortable when they know that their feedback's not going to come back to bite them, particularly at the beginning. As you build that trustful relationship with employees, they will be more and more willing to share things with you. But just thinking about things like the anonymous survey, because then it gives you a starting point of where you are. And you're always going to have that one negative person that they're not going to find anything. And you can kind of take what they say with a grain of salt. But
Mhm.
if you're hearing that comment over and over and over and over again, it's something that you want to pay attention to.
Great point there. So, Lisa, we are coming. I cannot believe how quickly this went. We're coming to the end of our time together. Do you have a last thought that you would like to leave?
Well, gratitude really begins with all of us. So, in this
Yes.
season of gratitude and Thanksgiving, to find some kind of gratitude practice. For me, it's a daily gratitude journal where I write down 5 things for which I'm grateful every day. But look for ways to, there's in my Take 5 and Thrive challenge, there's 5 ways that you can do this on a daily basis. The first one is to write it down in a gratitude journal. The second one, to express appreciation. So verbally find excuses to thank people for the work that they do or for the good that
Mhm.
they do. The thank you note, the letter of appreciation. What's the difference? In the world, according to Lisa Ryan, a thank you note is thank you for something. Thank you for dinner. Thank you for the gift. The letter of appreciation is thank you because this is this is how you have positively impacted my life. And the last one is to reflect on and meditate on gratitude. So you have 5 different ways. Bring more gratitude into your life, and it will be much easier to bring it to the world.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I am very grateful for you, truly grateful for you for being a part of my life, and also for you sharing so much information today with our audience. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
You are very welcome, my friend.
This is MJ Calloway signing out, but remember to join us every Thursday at noon. Have a bounce up day.